You need more than just sound bites. TSPN, streaming on the World Wide Web, and now on demand at TSPNTV.com.
There you are.
Hi everyone, Tom Slivick. Welcome to TSPN for today. Today we're going to start off the show with Supervisor Louis Boitano. No, I've got Sutter Creek people here in the building with me today. Tim Murphy, our supervisor report by Richard Forster, and then when we come back we're going to be talking to Tim Murphy. So stay with us right here on TSPN. You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN. Hi everyone, and welcome back. Tom Slivick, and I'm with Tim Murphy. Tim, good to see you again.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
All right, and you know, it seems like you've been a public official down there in Sutter Creek since since I first moved into the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think it's about the same time.
What, 20? How long have you been?
26 years.
25 years. 26 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're part of a great project. You know, the Sutter Creek Community Benefit Foundation, and right now you're going to be taking on the schoolhouse, the old schoolhouse in Sutter Creek. But before we talk about that, and actually we've decided that we're going to do next Wednesday's show, and we'll dedicate the whole show to that. We've got photographs and things so we can get into that a whole lot. But tell us a little bit about that project now.
The school project or
Yes,
the foundation?
The school project. Then we'll talk about the
Okay,
foundation.
okay. Well,
I'd like to cut to the chase a little bit
All
first,
right,
and then
okay, that's fine.
circle back.
The school we're talking about is the old grammar school in Sutter
Right.
Creek, the two-story brick building. It was originally built in about 1870. It was actually the second school from Sutter Creek, but it's been there since 1870. It had some major changes over that period, and we have some pictures of that. But basically, it was actively a school until the early 60s, and then for a lot of reasons have to do with school codes, I imagine. It was no longer used as a school, but had some limited public other uses
Right.
until a few years ago. Fortunately, in the late 70s, early 80s, the Sutter Creek Women's Club was able to secure a large grant to renovate the school, and it was a very extensive grant. It was several $100,000. It probably would have been multiple times that to do now in today's dollars. But basically, if it weren't for that grant, the school would be gone. I think we have some pictures of it. That's a picture now of what it was right before the renovation started.
Okay.
So now we're looking at kind of restoring some of what they did that needs to be replaced in order for it to be reused.
Okay. Well, let's jump off from that and talk about Sutter Creek itself as a city, because Sutter Creek, the city is a historical city, and I believe there is, laws or that when people rebuild or want to fix their facades up or whatever in the house, what people see, it has to maintain the flavor of the old Sutter Creek.
Right. That's absolutely right.
And that's one of the things that the tourists love about it, and the people that live here love about Sutter Creek so much, is it's so authentic.
Right. Yeah, we're trying to avoid it being a reproduction of an old town. I mean, it is an old town, and it's a whole town, though. It's not just a tourist attraction. It's an actual city where people live. It just happens to be intact back to the early part of the 20th century.
Right.
And that's what we're struggling with the school is trying to restore it back to one of its previous versions. And there's actually been a lot of different things done to the school, of course, over the years. So we're hoping to restore it as authentically as possible.
Okay. When did the Sutter Creek Community Benefit Foundation come on the scene? I think I have it right here. 2012?
Yeah, maybe I need to back up a little bit.
Okay.
The school, the project for the school, the city of Sutter Creek has leased the school from the school district. The school district still owns it.
Okay.
The city's now responsible for 30 years for liability and maintenance and for purposes of this restoration. The Sutter Creek Foundation was assigned or volunteered to be the fundraising
Okay.
arm for this.
All right.
This restoration is going to be carried out with donations of funds, of course, in-kind labor and services like that. So it's going to take a while, but we're off to a good start.
Okay, and you've already done some things. You've maintaining the Monteverde store,
Right.
and that looks really good. Looks like it has a fresh paint and everything on that, and that's a great historic draw for tourism.
Mhm.
Some of the other projects that you're working on that I like a lot is the bridge project.
Right.
Where you're going to have a public, but there's a bump out, basically, it kind of looks like, for pedestrian use and possibly tables and things. What is the future look for that?
Yeah, that's a really nice project. The bridge is scheduled to be replaced, the Main Street Bridge over Sutter Creek, next year, unless we run into more Caltrans red tape. But at this point, that's it. The new configuration of the bridge is going to be wide enough that it's going to allow for a expanded plaza sidewalk area on primarily the east side, the auditorium side of the bridge.
Right.
And that's going to be landscaped and bordered, and it's going to be used as a kind of a meeting place or a gathering place where people can hang out and have some limited uses. Not a lot. It's mostly just a place to, gather.
Yeah.
Which is
And,
really absent in town unless you
Well,
just.
I'm curious to see how it comes out, anyway, so that's going to be a really nice thing. What else are you working on? I know that's the school is your main thrust right now, but we're just going to touch on the foundation more, and we'll get, like I said, we'll talk all about the school when we continue next Wednesday.
All right. The other main project that we're trying to do this year in conjunction with the city is a display of antique mining equipment from the local mines,
right,
which will be put in at the south end of Main Street. There's kind of an unused piece of city property that most people don't realize who even owns it. It's usually full of cars for sale and weeds and whatever. So we're going to turn that into a passive park that'll have a walking display of various mining equipments. And we have a
You're
lot
going to
of
have timbers that were made
yeah.
by the old-time sawmill at the Amador County Fair. I was out there when they were cutting your order, I believe, at the fair.
Yeah, that's one of the first and biggest features we're going to have is a stamp mill. And actually, Louis Boitano has donated all the metal parts. He has all the metal parts of this mill, but the frame is long gone. So Bill Braun is volunteered to cut the beams for that, which will have to dry for some amount of time, and hopefully, I don't know how long that is, next spring or whatever, we'll be ready to start setting these things. And each of these pieces is going to be an educational kind of display. It'll have an explanation. We're not just going to park a bunch of old rusty mining equipment in the end of town. So
Just like take it from one place where it was laying to another place.
No, there's some great. We've had a lot of donated equipment. The Sutter Gold donated a bunch of old equipment. We have some from the Knight Foundry, some from the Argonaut Mine.
Sutter Creek has found that people are fascinated with the past.
Right, hopefully. We're going to test that.
Okay, and hopefully a part of that too would have been the foundry that I know there's probably not a lot you can do with it, but that's always somewhere in the back of Sutter Creek's mind to resurrect, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still on the agenda. That was a major disappointment. We couldn't pull that off. We had some significant grant funding, 2 grants actually, but we were never able to really put it all together.
There's a pretty high price tag on that.
Well, yeah, the owner of the foundry is still in contact with us and is very positive about it, and we're trying to relook at how we can accomplish that and keep that from falling further away. That's a fascinating building. It's actually full. It looks like people just went to lunch and didn't come back. Their tools are there.
Basically, they did almost just a few years ago.
Well, actually, yeah.
And I was fascinated by it. We had probably videotaped at least 2 pours that I'm sure of, and
that's right. You did a big film of it.
And it was always fun whenever they would say this is going to be a time, and they are still a crew, and the owner at that time that
Yeah.
So that's nice. So the foundation has a lot going for it. Can you tell us who are the founders, or who are the people that are so active? I see on this list, Louis Boitano. You want to go ahead, Ollie, and
Yeah,
put it there so you don't forget anybody's name and get in trouble?
Yeah, actually, thanks. We talked about that as getting forgetful. Actually, the founding board is made up of Helen Bierce, who's a native of Sutter Creek, Louis Boitano, Sharon Brown is very active in it, Frank Kuna, who's currently the chairman, Robert Gordon, Tony Lindy, who is involved in multiple things in the county,
Right.
Lisa Klosowski, who is, I don't know how she does all the things she's doing in Sutter Creek, but she pulls it off, and she's a very active member.
Right.
Ed Swift, Gary Wooten, and myself. That's the board.
Okay, well, that's a good board. There's a lot of talent and a lot of drive on that board, including with you.
We have about 60-some members that have joined as well, who are actively going to participate in some of our projects when we get to that point.
All right. Now, it's probably hard for you to believe, but we've run out of time already.
Great.
So you can see why I've asked you back, so that we have enough time to go into the project for the old schoolhouse at Sutter Creek, the renovation, and look for that. We'll be back once again with Tim Murphy on Wednesday next week. I hope you enjoyed this segment. Stay tuned. There's more to come right here on TSPN. You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN. Job